Baby, I'm lonely right now. I'm lonely right now. My voice, it's echoing.
Yeah.
It's bouncing off the wall.
Yeah.
So I'm lonely right. I'm not unhappy here.
Hi, Jenica here from Multispective, and I'm here to share with you a new episode. I interviewed Darius Wallace. He's an actor, a director, he's a teacher, a speaker, a motivational speaker, and a solo performer. He was known for some of the movies that he had done, including Nashville, including Law and Order, and he's also participated in a lot of the Michigan Shakespeare Festival shows in several different roles all around the world. So we're super excited to have him here. And his story is another one that's really interesting. He comes from a very difficult background, from poverty, where he was almost tempted into joining a gang, and instead he decided to take out a lot of his pain onto something healthier. He talks about being homeless and how he managed to overcome that again through having a certain willpower and mindset. So stay tuned, listen to the end, let us know what you think in the comment below, and can't wait to hear from you guys. Darius, welcome to Multispective. I am so excited to have you on this podcast with me.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Very glad to be here.
I honestly feel so honored. This is like one of my first sort of celebrity feature, and so much to share on air. And I'm also really, really excited to share your own personal journey and sort of like what inspired you to get into all of this. So let's just begin. And can you maybe start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and where you're from and all of that?
Sure. Well, I'm originally from Flint, Michigan, and I don't know if people have heard of Flint, Michigan, but it's probably have heard of Flint because of the water crisis. But Flint was a town that I still very proud of, and it's where I got the beginnings of my acting journey. And so basically, I've been this. If you saw me, I'm like 5'11", 190 pounds. I didn't weigh this much, but I've been this tall since I was 13.
Wow.
And I practiced martial arts, got kind of involved with the, more street life kind of thing as a kid. Because I practiced martial arts and, I was a prime target for gang life. But then there was an intervention with the middle school vice principal who gave me an ultimatum. You can either keep going this route, go to jail, juvenile, or I can tell your daddy, or you can do what you love to do, which is theater. And so let me be clear.
Wow.
You can send me to juvenile, you can send me to jail, just don't tell my daddy. So fortunately, I chose to go the route of theater. I had some guidance from my high school theater teacher, which led me to a place eventually called Interlochen Arts Academy, which is a high school of performing arts, where you live there like a college. And so I went there, and then I went to Purchase in New York, and I had my left Purchase, and I did my first professional acting job as Caliban in The Tempest. And then I started to get involved in doing one-person shows, starting with the Malcolm X, very powerful leader back in the 60s. And then it transmuted to Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King. And now, for years, I've been doing Frederick Douglass, the great abolitionist. Frederick Douglass. I'm on tour, actually, right now. Doing
Wow.
Frederick Douglass.
You.
And my new one-person show called My Words and My Sword. And then I've done television, Law and Orders, Hallmark channels, and
Nashville.
all the ABC, Nashville, and been in several movies and a lot of independent movies. There's an independent movie I'm starring in called Damaged Goods. It's in post-production right now.
Okay.
And then another movie on the festival circuit called Queen Rising. These are two movies that I'm very, very proud of. And so that kind of gives you a little bit of where I'm from, a little bit about myself.
straight up to the successes. No, I love it. This is so awesome. I want to know, like, we'll start off from like back where you started, and you were talking about how, you know, that ultimatum came to you because you were at a place where you could have really gone down a very different kind of dangerous route.
Oh yeah.
And you said that you were sort of getting asked by a lot of people out on the streets to like join them. What, like, were you tempted in it? Did you actually like dabble in that sort of area as well?
Oh, I did. Oh yeah. Oh, I did. Yeah. It really was less. It was one particular gang. This was back in that. Now I'm going to age myself. Let's see. Should I even tell you what decade this was in? No, but actually, back in the 80s
Okay.
is when the crack epidemic hit the country. And Flint, Michigan, which was a thriving town in the 70s, you know, fell victim to that. And so because of that, a lot of new gangs started to pop up to move, you know, the products or what have you. Now, as a kid, we didn't know anything. We didn't know what was going on. Only looking back do we know what was going on. But so it became very dangerous. And I joined really for protection. You know, I was at the elementary school waiting for the bus to go to school. And a friend of mine was like, you know, there was these kids that were getting jumped and beaten up on a regular basis throughout the city. And a friend was like, hey, you're on the list. And I'm like, what list? What list?
What are you talking about here?
Yeah, you're on the list to getting jumped. I'm like, why am I on the list? You know.
Was it just by association
Anyway,
sort of thing?
no, it was just he said that, you know, I was a pretty handsome dude in those days, and so I think he said
Still are.
because the girls like me. Oh, well, thank you. And so he was like, on the way out, just joined this game called the Top Dogs, and I was like, I'm with it. I don't want to get jumped. Anyway, so I started to go down that track and found myself in very dangerous situations at 13 years old. And life became very dark during those times. But here's the beautiful thing, though. Here's the beautiful thing. When I made a decision to get into acting, that following year, now mind you, I was afraid to speak in front of people. And it took my high school theater teacher to help me come out of my shell. And I ended up getting a lead role in the play, ninth grade.
Imagine.
And the audience was the Top Dogs that were there at the performance. So when I was walking home, I saw them pull up. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Boys in the Hood, but it was kind of like that deal. And the windows slowly rolled down. And he told me to get in the car, and I got in the car. And he was driving, and he was like, you know, hey, we saw you in that play. You're really talented. We're proud of you. We don't want you to go this route. And they stopped the car and let me out. And that was the end of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
One of
So
those
what's beautiful
moments.
what's beautiful is, you know, the streets was pulling me in, but when they saw the light in me, the streets encouraged me to go the way that they felt I should go, which to me when I look back on that, it was a very, very beautiful moment,
Right.
you know. So,
Yeah. No, that's crazy. That's amazing. Can you talk
yeah.
to me about your parents at the time? How were you raised? Would you say they were overall quite present and quite attentive? And did they sort of like train you up with inspiration? What was it like?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in a household of religious parents, but two different religions. My mother was Christian, and belonged to the denomination called Church of God in Christ. And my father was Muslim.
Wow.
You belong to the Nation of Islam, yeah. And so I had two different voices, but that they were married and in love, and with what they knew, they did the best to raise me.
Right.
And so my father, he really, you know, he growing up in the 50s and 60s in the South, he dealt with the struggles of racism in the South, Memphis, Tennessee. And then he didn't have a father. So he reached from a variety of different places to help raise us as a father.
Mm.
And so, yes, he had the religion, but the other thing that he had was he was into inspirational materials. So at a very young age, I was exposed to a lot of inspirational materials, a lot of inspirational thoughts. And I watched my father transform his life to become an entrepreneur. And so, throughout my life, my father and my mother have been an inspiration to me. And I'm confident that the reason why I'm so drawn to inspiration and desiring to inspire others is because of my father in particular.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it makes me sort of like think about those that end up in sort of gangs or in the violence or in that kind of a system. And I wonder whether it's because they didn't have the kind of role models or they didn't have the kind of stable like household with parents that were able to inspire them quite the way. And so they ended up leading in that path. And yeah.
Yeah, I think it's part of that. I think it's partly that. I think it's partly that, which you'll find is a lot of, people that you would suspect, they have both parents in the home, which is odd. Now you have other situations where that wasn't the case, single parent homes. You also have very successful people that were in single parent homes. So I think it's that, but I think it's also the systemic racism too, though. I
Hmm.
think it's the way things are set up also that kind of, it's like a mouse trap or like what do you call it? Those when you're navigating and
Maze.
you have to amaze. Yeah, I think that is kind of that situation. But I will say this though, because of my father's involvement in getting me understanding the power that's within me, even with the what's out there that challenges you, whether it's the streets, the weirdness of politics, or all the different elements that's out there, that there's something within me, there's something within you that can overcome that.
Hmm.
And so that was the thing I think that helped me, not just then, but now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
not just then,
Yeah.
but now. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right now. Yeah, right here,
Yeah.
right now. So that's what that is.
Yeah. And it's also like that beauty of having like your teachers in your corner, having people that sort of believed in you, maybe even at the times where you didn't believe in yourself, you didn't have that sort
Oh
of
yeah.
self faith. Someone's
Oh
there,
yeah.
there to be like, mm-mm, we see something else in
Yeah.
you, we see a spark in you, and we're going to try
Oh
to
yeah.
ignite that. Yeah.
I've had that all throughout my life. I think that really even what this particular gang saw in me was talent at first for them, but
Mm.
then they saw talent in me for something more. But then, my high school theater teacher, here's the reality. I was flunking. I was flunking my acting class in eighth grade, and Mrs. O'Neill, my middle school theater teacher, wanted to help me out, and so she put me in a play, and she gave me one line that I had a lot of trouble saying. And so she worked with me and worked with me, and I would always forget it and get nervous. And so the day of the performance, night of the performance, all I remember I was under this light, and I heard these it was Shakespeare. So I heard these people saying these weird lines, and I'm just standing there waiting for my cue. And when my cue came, suddenly I just said it, and my voice just lit up the
Belted.
whole building.
Hey.
So afterwards, the high school theater teacher came, Mr. Jennings came, and he said, you have talent, you have, voice, I want you to be a part of the high school theater deal. So, but to your point, he saw something in me I didn't see in myself.
Hmm.
He believed in me until I could believe in myself.
Hmm.
And I've had that throughout my life. Yeah.
Right. No, that's so awesome. That's amazing.
Mhm.
And I can hear that as well. Like you've got that sort of like power in your voice. You've got that sort of the layers to it. You've got the clarity in your speech as well. I wonder whether that's something that you've had to sort of like perfect over
Oh
time
yeah.
or talk to me
Oh
about
yeah.
that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember back during that time, the issue was I had a really hard Michigan urban accent, Flint urban accent. So you couldn't understand me unless you were from, my neighborhood. You also couldnn't hear me because I talk really low. You're not supposed to, you know what I mean? And so I got to the point where my voice came out, but I remember I got cast in another play where I had the lead role from a guest director who I eventually worked with again later in my life. And she said to Mr. Jennings, she was like, the kid is great, but I can't understand what he's saying. He has a great presence, a great voice, but I have no idea what he's saying.
Yeah.
So Mr. Jennings really went hard on me about doing articulation exercises and voice exercises. But I ran into her again, same director. She began to become a teacher at Interlochen Arts Academy.
Wow.
So she introduced me to two techniques, Kristen Linkletter's vocal technique and Edith Skinner's diction technique,
Okay.
which then followed me into college in New York. And
Wow.
so those techniques, of course, I've been working with for years now. So now I sound like a Shakespearean actor.
Yeah,
Because I
exactly.
do
That's
do
exactly what I
Shakespeare
was
now. I do
thinking.
Shakespeare. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
That's really cool. And I feel like that's something that can take you in so many directions in different kinds of careers. Like if you wanted to get into like marketing, sales, any kind of like like a cold calling jobs or really anything, because,
oh yeah.
that's something that is so close to the concept of like confidence. It shows such personality.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, my uh, uh, dialect speech coach back at Purchase used to always say, good speech is money in your pocket.
That's true. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, so it does. And I coach people on this too. I coach TEDx speakers and coach entrepreneurs,
Mm.
and because I found that what I struggle with as a teenager is what they're struggling with right now in their profession. So I
Yeah.
help with that to build confidence and
Mm.
through
So you did
storytelling.
you did a lot of theater back at home. What inspired you or made you decide to move to New York and try to pursue this like TV show biz and on a larger scale?
Yeah, I've moved all over the place. But I left Flint because I wanted to be in a bigger market to do, what I do. Of course, LA and New York, but especially at that time, those were the places where you had to go.
Right.
Now we live in an age, especially after COVID, a lot of our auditions are like this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're
Interesting.
video. Yeah, they're video.
Wow.
And so you can be anywhere around the country and audition. I have an agent in LA and I have an agent in New York, but I live in Atlanta. And
Wow.
so I'm going to New York next week to do a performance. And then I'm going to Los Angeles, but I'm based in Georgia now because there's a lot of, film and television happening here. And so, it's one of those things where, if you want to see a giraffe, you can use your imagination all day long in Idaho. But the chances of you seeing a giraffe
Yeah.
in Idaho without going to the zoo
Yeah.
is next to
No.
nothing. You got to go to Africa to see a giraffe. You really want to see the giraffe, you got to go to Africa.
Mhm.
So I think you've got to go to you should wherever market you're in, work that market first,
Mm.
no matter where you are. Work that market first. Then when you do well in that market, then think about moving to the bigger markets where you can do
Mm.
more work.
Right.
And so I moved to the bigger markets to do more work, but I had to do more in Flint at first, and then I
Mm.
had to do more in I lived in Memphis for a while too. So
Right. Talk to me about those personal challenges and tribulations you were experiencing at that time.
all right. Well, all right. Well, um, this is probably one of the most competitive professions on the planet. And also too, you're dealing with this is my instrument. So you're dealing with rejection all the time. I think as a young actor, I wasn't quite ready for the realities of the industry. And during that period of time, I lost my mother to breast cancer, which really turned my world upside down. And
Mm.
emotionally, psychologically, I wasn't ready. Matter of fact, the day that my mother transitioned, was the day I had a meeting with the head of, it was Peter Golden, the head of NBC casting.
Wow.
And, uh, uh, and I went to the audition. He was really, remorseful of what happened to my mother. He was surprised that I was still willing to come. And he was like, you're going to work as an actor. And he called up a bunch of casting directors. And when I went to the funeral, but I came back, this is in Los Angeles, I wasn't the same.
Mm.
I just wasn't the same person. Seeing my mother in the casket
Did
it just
something.
kind of took the soul out of me.
Mm.
And went through a massive depression and really found it very difficult to do anything and began to lose things. And fortunately, I was a friend of mine had a theater festival happening in New York, and so they asked me to come out there. So that gave me a little work for a period of time, but then it just seemed like psychologically I was just going down, down, down. And so eventually I ended up, Jenica, I'm pronouncing your name right?
That's
Jenica?
correct.
Okay. Jenica, I ended up homeless
Yeah.
in New York. Yeah, in New York City for a while, not for long, but for a while.
Mm.
And I just remember it was the twilight zone. I just couldn't believe that I had fallen so low to where the only dream I had was a shopping cart. Can I find a shopping cart today so I can give me some cans, so I can give me some money? So my dream was like, went that far, but I still had an ability to dream, but it was just my world and my imagination, everything just kind of went down. But I remembered my father saying something to me as a little boy, all things lost can be regained, and we, like the divine, can say be, and it is.
Mm.
And that sparked life in me. And I started the journey upward and slowly but surely found where I used to sneak in bookstores. Now, back in those days, you had to buy the book to read it.
Exactly.
You had to buy it to read it. You couldn't just be, sitting back and just reading a book that you hadn't bought yet.
Mm.
But I was sneaking bookstores because I didn't have money to buy them. I would do that. I would read the books, inspirational books. And I kept feeding myself the content that was inspiring me. And through the course of time, I found myself waking up in the middle of the night, from a dream reciting Shakespeare. Like more than once, I would just wake up and I'm just reciting Shakespeare. And eventually I ended up auditioning for a professional theater company and I got into it. And that was back in 2000. And since then, I've been rolling again as an actor. But, even as I've had success, you're still dealing with many auditions and not getting the part.
Mm.
You're still dealing with the anxiety of, am I still good? Do I still have it? Do I still have the techniques? Am I still working right? Am I, resting on my laurels? And then there's so many other dynamics that you're not in control of as an actor.
Hmm.
But that's not going to change. But what I am in control of is what I focus on now.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. It reminds me of like a verse I think in the Bible where it says something like, give me the strength to accept the things that I cannot, give me the power to change the things I can, and give me the wisdom to tell the difference. And it's
Yes,
so
yes, the
true.
serenity prayer. Yeah, God
Yeah.
grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah. It's so true, and it rings so true in so many aspects of life, because you know what, we're always exposed to so many things, especially now with social media and like the news and everything,
Oh,
like
yeah,
about things that are
yeah,
happening around us, and we can't do anything about it except just,
yeah,
hope for the best. And it
yeah,
can be such a downer at times. But I love that you
yeah,
turned this adversity into something to power you. You used it as an opportunity to be like, okay, what can I do now? I'm at my lowest. I've got nothing to lose right now.
yeah.
There's only one way, which is up.
Yes, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
I like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's there's two faculties. There's memory and your imagination. And if you use memory to keep looking back at your past, you'll paralyze yourself.
Mm.
Turn into a pillar of salt, as it were, because you're constantly looking back.
Yeah.
Your imagination is about your future, but if you're using your imagination for fear of what might happen,
Mm. Yeah.
now you're living in fear instead of in faith.
Mm.
But you can use your memory to remember your future of who you want to be, do, and have
Mm.
through your imagination.
Yeah.
And that gives you the energy right now in the present to take action because you're using your memory to see your future, because time is relative.
Mm.
You can use your memory to see your future.
I really like that. That's so cool. Like I don't think I've ever heard it in quite those words, but I feel like that sort of like ticked something in me. It's just like, yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, yeah.
In a way, it's like, in a way also it leads me to think that, the number of times I have overcome, or we have overcome adversity, and
Hmm.
knowing that we have done it in the past is kind of like, well, I can do it again, and using that
Hmm.
again to power you. But talk to me a little bit about like rejection. How did you take it at the beginning, and how did you learn to take it?
Oh, I didn't take it well at all. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I don't like to be rejected for nothing.
Mm, yeah.
um, I handled it very poorly.
Hmm.
um,
How so?
well, you can handle it through many different ways. People handle it through, a lot of times through addictions. Mine was at the time alcohol. Alcohol was the thing that I used to help me deal with rejection or coping, right?
Mm,
Um, and, you know, rejection is painful because, you feel a sense of, you lose your self-worth if you're handling rejection the way that I handle rejection.
mm,
We handle it through drinking, through food sometimes, through anything that takes our mind off, through sex, where we indulge to gain some kind of self-worth, some kind of acceptance.
mm.
Um, and a lot of times the rejection that we think that we're getting is fiction.
Okay.
It's made up in our mind. It's the stories we've told ourselves, you
Mm,
know. When they weren't rejecting, they're like, I really like your work. You're just not right for this part. Or I really like you. You're a great person, but you're not right for me right
mm,
now. You know, I like you. You're very talented, but you're overqualified for the job. You really shouldn't be applying for washing dishes. You're an engineer. You know what I'm saying? Um, and so we think we're being rejected in a way that's like it's white or black. It's two extremes. Either it's good or not, and either we succeed or fail.
Hmm.
And so handling rejection that way is not the healthiest way to handle it. And so then we begin to do, the self-destructive things to ourselves. But guess what? Rejection sometimes is God's protection.
Hmm. Very true.
I didn't come up with that. I can't remember the woman's name, but this billionaireist, um, who, because of the way she looks, was rejected by this major investor
Mm.
to sell these beauty products because of how she looked.
Right.
And so she didn't listen to him. She looked at it like, okay, well, some big corporation bought her products and now she's a billionaire.
Yeah.
But if she had went with that guy, he would have owned her stuff,
Mm.
probably 50 or 60% of it. She
Yeah.
owns the whole thing.
That's crazy, right?
So rejection sometimes is God's protection. Um, and also too, it's a numbers game. Some will, some won't.
Yeah.
Who cares? Next. All
I love that.
right.
I love
Yeah.
that.
So, what story are you telling yourself? Are you telling yourself you're not good enough? Am I telling myself I'm too black? Am I telling myself, I am too large? Am I telling myself that I'm bald and nobody will cast me because I'm bald? You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Am I telling myself that nobody loves my voice, which I thought at one time? Um, you know, am I telling myself these negative stories that's reinforcing what I'm drawing to myself,
Hmm.
right? Because people pick up on that. Or can I reverse it? Can I reverse the story? People love my voice.
Hmm.
People love my bald head.
Flip, flip, flip.
People love my brown chocolate skin.
Yeah.
People love when I show up in the room. And the truth is not everybody loves you all the time, but that's not your problem.
Hmm. That's true.
Especially if you're in a mindset of working on yourself. And so what I'd like to encourage people is one, know that rejection sometimes is God's protection. And also two, a lot of times the rejection we think we're getting, we're not. It's what we're telling ourselves. But most
Hmm.
importantly, it's how you feel about yourself is the most important and your
Hmm.
willingness to grow yourself.
Yeah. Really, really good answer there. What was what was that one moment or gig or show that you did that was a game changer for you?
Oh, wow. Um, I tell you what, with all the different work I had already been doing, Jenica, still I felt this rejection and this sense of I'm not good enough and nobody really likes my work.
Hmm.
Um, but then one day at Tennessee Shakespeare Company, um, uh, Stephanie Shine, who's now the wife of Dan McClary, who's the artistic director of Tennessee Shakespeare. I was in Romeo and Juliet,
Oh.
playing the Friar Lawrence. And I just thought I was just sucking all over the place. Man, I was like, these people are never gonna cast me again. So we got to like tech rehearsal somewhere in there. Stephanie sat me down and she said, I really love your work. Something just opened up in me
Hmm.
because she's not one to give compliments like that. She
Right.
looked me dead and she has these big, beautiful Irish eyes, just looking like lasers.
Yeah.
And she says, I really love your work. And it was like something just clicked in me.
Mhm.
And see, sometimes people have to transmit, you know, um, there's a type of Buddhism called Chan Buddhism. And Chan Buddhism is about transmission of the
Mm.
teachings without saying much.
Love it.
So she didn't say much. She just said, I really love your work. And it transmitted this confidence in me as a professional actor now. And from that moment on, it's been an upward movement toward more confidence as an actor. Of course, you got to do the work. You got to practice. But that was the game-changing moment for me.
Oh my God, that is so cool. No, I love that. Um, Now I'm gonna turn it around and be like, what was the toughest part? What was a moment that was a game changer, but in the downward spiral that was like, oh no. Did you ever have like a chaotic show or a
Yeah.
performance that, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, there's many of those. There's many of those. I think probably there's two major ones, but I'll just mention this one because it's still related to Tennessee Shakespeare. This was a few years before that moment with Stephanie.
Mm.
I was cast in Midsummer Night's Dream, uh, where I played I can't remember the character's name, the joiner. I can't think of his name right now.
Mm.
Well, I was probably miscast
Oh,
on that one. I doubled for another role, and man, I tell you what, it just wasn't working out. It just wasn't working out. It was one of the toughest experiences of my life. And then it was confirmed with the review.
oh God.
Oh, the review that everybody sees, right? Everybody
Yeah.
sees the review. Whether they love you, you can do a horrible job, but the review says you did well. Well, great. Everybody saw that. It doesn't matter how
Yeah.
horrible I was.
Yeah.
But this one was, I didn't do so well, and the review let everybody know it.
Mm, right.
And this is the same period. This is the same period where I was like on the verge of hitting bottom with alcohol. And it was just a mess.
I can.
So the review,
Yeah, I imagine like what.
oh
that
God,
like for you.
it was just, but you know what it did though? It made me sit back. It really made me sit back. And two things happened simultaneously. I ended up getting into a 12-step program that changed my life. It's way back in 2009. And a realization that I just wanted to be better as an actor.
Mm.
That I actually had coffee with the reviewer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Son of a.
I was like, man, what did you see? What exactly did you see? And he told me, and once again, rejection is not always the rejection that you think. He said, man, I love your work. I'm a fan of yours. I just think you were miscast. I really just think I don't know why they didn't have you in a different role.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It was that kind of a thing. So, but this is what happened though. So that happened. I wanted to get better. I started to work getting better. Then I had the moment with Stephanie several years later. It kept getting better, kept working, as I'm always trying to get better at working.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Several years after Stephanie, I had an audition for the Midsummer Night's Dream again, and I got the leading role
Well.
as Oberon.
Yeah.
Yeah, as Oberon. And I got a great review
Yeah.
off of that. So I think that was probably one of my hardest moments. But fortunately, I was able to and I can't say this for other, hard moments, but this one, I was able to take it, embrace it, not deny it, and see what I can do to change it.
I love that. Um, Talk to me about when and where and how and why you chose to transition from theater to TV shows and like Hollywood. It's not that you've transitioned completely out of it, but decided to step into the TV show or the TV biz.
I've always wanted to do. I think I really got into it to do TV and
Okay.
movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Theater was what was accessible, and I love theater for what theater is able to do. So I still love the live performing and still do theater live performing, mainly my one-person shows. I do one-person show on Frederick Douglass. I think I already said that earlier in the show, but I've always wanted to do it. That's just plain and simple, and so I got with an agency and started to do auditions, and I've become a lot more intentional about how to act with the camera, which is different, than acting on stage. So that, and then doing it, just realizing like right now, even this light right here shining on me gives me energy. You know what I mean? It's like, I love the camera and lights and, the movement of people all around you and the chords and,
Yeah.
and then also getting into character. And then, there's a beauty to film acting and television acting too.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about like how, like, and we know like on the surface level how different it is, but really how different was it for you as an actor?
Well, stage, the audience is seeing your whole body, and there's continuity because you're doing it from beginning to end nonstop. So once you're in it, you're just focused and you're going. And because a lot of theaters are big, not all theaters, but you got to play to whoever's in the back of the house. So your emotions and everything has to resonate with the people way in the back. Movies and television, it's not like that. It's not like that. It's kind of like right now what it is, there's, if I move this way, now I'm out of frame. I can't just move the way I want. Yeah. So I have to be still, and then I have to, do what I'm doing right now, which is, act with my eyes, because this is predominantly, what you're seeing. You know what I mean? And I have to be still because the light is right here. The camera has me in focus. You know what I mean? And if I move, so it's a matter of learning how to act in the frame. And then also too, the camera is capturing your eyes. So it's a lot of what's happening on the inside of you when it comes down to film. And film is a visual medium. So it's not so much just about the words. It's about the intent and what's happening under the words in film, and television. This is a part of,
Yeah, no, for sure. Because it's really up close. Like your eyes have to tell that story, and it's got to have that depth to it. The words in itself is not gonna just cut it, right? And on stage, there are people quite far away from you, so your facial expressions, while important, it's the whole body. No, I see what you mean.
Yes,
that's really interesting.
Yes. Now I think that there's a place where they meet. I think you still have to be very much in touch with your body, even for film. And then, of course, depending on the shot, right? So right now, this is kind of like not quite a close-up, but head and shoulder shot. But you have that master shot. And so when that master is there, you're back. You're not necessarily back to theater, but you're having to move, to do more, to reach. Because of the master of the camera sort of the back, the audience sees your whole body. So, so there's some of that too.
What was some of the hardest roles you've had to play, the most toughest scenes you've had to do?
Oh, wow. Wow, that's a huge one.
Or just memorable ones that really stand out to you.
Well, I think probably the hardest role, but I have a whole bunch of stuff going through my head. Probably the hardest or most rewarding role was Mark Antony in Julius Caesar. because
Mm.
Mark Anthony has this 4-page monologue. That's a very famous monologue. And it was a lot of hard work to do that. And I doubled for another character that I can't think of the name right now. Um, but the shifting of characters and sometimes the costume changes in the midst of the dynamics of what Julius Caesar and what's happening in the moment, I would say that probably was the most challenging, but most rewarding role was Mark Anthony and Julius Caesar.
Wow. I mean, you've
Yeah.
really done some awesome, huge work out there. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah. I'm so thankful to have played some of the roles that I've played. And I did my first leading role in a film called Damaged Goods. It's not out yet. It comes out this year, I believe. It's in
Mm.
post right now. And so
Yeah.
that was challenging. But I think Mark Anthony and Julius Caesar probably was my most challenging
Mm.
acting role.
Yeah. I know that you are also a sort of behind the scenes director, producer. What inspired you to transition into that role? Do you feel, because there are also actually a couple of actors out there that have actually dabbled into that. I'm curious to know, like, why so?
Well, I just wanted to work. I just wanted to work as an actor. My whole reason for doing my solo performing, at the beginning was I just wanted to work. This is back when I was young. I got kicked out of the house by my dad. I had to find my own place, and I got my first play, and then it ended, and I was going to have to go back to being a security guard. So I wanted to work.
Yeah.
So I wrote a one-person show. And that kept me working. Well, it was the same with doing a movie. I wanted to be in movies,
Mm.
you know, and so I wanted to direct a movie, and so that I could be in a movie. So that's the
Okay,
best way
nice
I
and
can put it.
simple. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now, but the thing is, though, for both when I wanted to work as an actor, my first one-person show was Malcolm X, and it became bigger than me wanting to work as an actor at that point, um, because of what Malcolm X, who he was and what he represented and the impact that the show was having on the people.
Hmm.
It was the same with film, becoming a director. Once I got in it, and the subject matter, it was called 100 Lives, all about a school teacher whose 4-year-old daughter was the 100th homicide victim. And the impact on the city, and then the impact on other actors who also wanted to work.
Hmm.
So now it was bigger than me. And so that became the driving force for me to want to direct, is to give other people opportunity and to tell stories that have an impact on people. So
Hmm.
that's what it is now. But at first, I just wanted to work.
Yeah. It's like in hindsight, you were like, okay, now I see
Yeah,
this in a different way. And I also
yeah.
wonder whether, and I do want to come back to the impact and the whole topic of impact, because it seems to be a running theme in your life, coming from sort of adversity in your own journey, and then coming to a place of wanting to make a difference, and that seemed to be a path that you took even in your career. But also, do you feel like being behind the scenes directing helped you to see what it means to be an actor more and
Oh,
better?
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Both in directing and in writing a screenplay. It helps out so much. I would highly recommend for an actor to direct a short film, or to write a short screenplay or a screenplay or direct a feature film, because it gave me an understanding of what the needs of the director are, or what the needs of the casting person is, what the needs of the script is. And so understanding that gave me an opportunity as an actor to feed into that, to those needs,
Hmm.
you know. And so I think that it very much so helped me, being behind the scenes, helped me understand what the needs are, and and how things fit as an actor where you may find yourself, if you understand the structure of a screenplay and you know what page number uh, you're dealing with, you know where you are in the script and what you're supposed to represent, that helps out a whole lot. So yeah, it helped out tremendously to direct. And then also too to really know that most times directors and casting directors and agents and producers and screenwriters, they're really on your side because they want it to be a great project and they're looking for your input so that it's a collaborative and not just a dictation, you
Right.
know. So
Yeah.
it was very helpful. Yeah.
And like, how often is it sort of like changed and adapted to suit the actor better? Say, like the script or the direction, in order to be able to make it more comfortable for the actor.
I think well, I know for myself, it's my goal to make sure that an actor feels as comfortable and safe as possible because then I know they're going to give their best performance. Um, and I think when it comes down to the script, when you understand the structure of the script and the way the story is being told, and you understand archetypes and you understand the dynamics of the script, it makes it even more fun as you're learning the story. Best way to learn the lines is to learn the story. The best way to learn the lines is to know the story. Because when you know the story and you're in the story, the lines are just going to come to you. As you've worked on them, of course, but you know what I'm saying. So I think these are the things that really make it dynamic for the actor, is to, having a good relationship with the director and the director having a good relationship with the actors. And then the actor also really embracing the script or embracing those sides. Sometimes you don't have the script, but where you're giving yourself an opportunity to understand what's happening in the moment and how you can then serve the story.
Yeah. Were you ever in a situation where the casting crew, the team members, everyone on the team, at any point did you not get along with anyone, and how did that sort of impact?
Um, I've been fortunate for the most part to not have ever experienced that. There was one director one time that was completely the opposite of what I mentioned. Like completely the opposite. Um, but that was a very brief moment. It was two directors for that particular film. And a lot of my time was with the other director. So I've heard stories of other actors that have had some pretty bad experience with some that famous actors. Oh God. And directors. But I've been fortunate. I just haven't experienced those dynamics on the set. It's something that I dread, might happen one day because I've heard the stories. But I've been pretty fortunate not to. I really haven't experienced I don't have any real horror stories that I can think of at all on set. I've just heard of them. Oh my God.
Just
I've
sort of
heard of some
right
bad
bad.
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lord have mercy. Yeah.
How how have you been dealing? And I guess that one time where you said that um, that role that you played didn't quite work out very well, and there was a lot of
hmm
criticism online, and I guess there may have been more of that at some point along the journey as well. How have you dealt with that?
I think I deal with it a lot more better now than I did in the past. In the past, it would send me into depressions. You know what I mean? Because once again, you feel the sense of rejection, and it's the stories you're telling yourself, and you're believing the stories other people are telling you about yourself can kind of drive you, into a very, very dark place. Um, I think now, I do a lot of meditation practices and I practice Tai Chi, you know what I mean? And I think and then prayer, I think those things, help. And then also too, finding how I can cultivate my inspiration
Hmm.
has helped me deal with, so, I'm putting the right content, I'm eating the right mental foods, as it were. That helps me deal with it now. But in the past, though, it's interesting because you can have a lot of cheerleaders over here, you know, and telling you how great you've done, and you get the good reviews. But then there's that one person
Yeah.
that didn't like it, and all of your energy and focus is going into that one purpose, that one
Yeah.
criticism. And
Yeah.
now that one little criticism is this big, and all of these other affirmations become so small.
Yeah. The human nature.
Yep, yep. And so, what do you do to divest yourself of that? One thing you can do is look at it. Really look at it. Maybe, maybe they're right. Maybe they're right.
Hmm.
And maybe you can learn something from it. That's one way that you can overcome it is, what can I learn from that?
Hmm.
And then how do I take that and turn it upside down so then I can add it as fuel to help drive me on.
Hmm.
But what you don't want to do is what it did to me back in the past, is really just let it shrink you down
Right.
to where you feel like you're nothing.
Hmm.
And it can do that one little criticism. Because you keep
Yeah.
feeding it to you. You keep looping it over and over and over and over and over again to yourself. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. Mhm.
I mean, it can be a very, very isolating journey. It can be a very lonely kind of experience, especially the more into the spotlight you get, the more popular, the more famous you get, your circle of supporters, your circle of genuine supporters does get a little bit smaller. Because along
Baby,
with
baby,
every
I'm lonely right now. I'm lonely right now. My voice, is echoing.
yeah.
It's bouncing off the walls.
Yeah.
So I'm lonely. I'm not unhappy. I'm very happy. But
Mm.
I'm lonely right now. You know, it's just a part of the deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It really is a part of the deal. Loneliness, when you're on a track to really wanting to elevate, I'm finding that that can cause loneliness, because if if you stay in the same circles, that's producing an effect in you, and that effect is not premium for you or optimum for you, and you don't step out of that circle, you're just going to repeat everything again.
Mm.
And sometimes when you step out of that circle, there's no one there.
Yeah.
It's just no one there. But you got to keep rolling. You got to keep going, um, because life is about growth. And sometimes when you're growing, you'll find yourself alone.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about Hollywood life? And maybe a little bit about the dark side of Hollywood, the stuff that we read about online that seem very conspiratory. And yeah, talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm not in the upper echelon of the Hollywood world, but even on the lower echelon of the Hollywood world, all of that stuff is true. There's no way to get around that. But I think it's not just in Hollywood; it's in any place where you're wanting to elevate to certain levels, corporate world, politics, athletics. You run into these gatekeepers, and you run into this elite realm where they seem to get a kick out of abusing power.
Hmm.
And it can make for very dark times sometimes, and very dark times,
Yeah.
because you're asked to compromise yourself. You're asked to devalue yourself, with the promise that all these doors are going to open up for you, you know. But here's the thing though, that's more of a myth. The myth is that you can be blackballed.
Hmm.
The myth is that that's the only opportunity.
Hmm.
The myth is that the gatekeepers are the only way in.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a myth. You may not, you may have to they may sit you on the bench for a while until you figure out how to, get on the court.
Hmm.
Yeah, that may happen. But at the end of the day, your destiny and who you are is ultimately up to you.
Hmm.
Whether you go the entertainment route, the political route, the corporate route, the athletic route, no matter where you go, you're going to run into these gatekeepers and you're going to run into this elite club
Yeah.
of people that want to abuse their power for fun, you know,
Yeah.
playing with lives, even in the legal or judicial system
That's true.
where you go to court,
Yeah.
what is a court? A court is where people play games.
That's true.
People's lives, people's lives are decided on the golf course.
Yeah. Have you ever found
And
yourself
so,
in these kind of like conundrums or in these kind of situations
oh
where you
yeah,
had to be like,
oh yeah,
my morality
oh yeah,
versus, this
oh yeah,
opportunity?
absolutely, absolutely. There have been times where really dark times because of it, especially when I was a younger actor. Because I didn't know all these dynamics, these weird dynamics are there. You know what I mean? This other underworld, as it were, is there. You know what I mean? And it makes you feel like it's over, like it's never going to happen for me. If I've got to go through this to get to where I want to go, it's just never going to happen. I thought that, and I gave up acting for a while because of it. Yeah, I quit because I was like, I can't, this is not a path that I want to follow. Um, but then I got back into it. And so, you know, the two things that I would recommend is one, to not judge other people, because people are going to do what they're going to do. Some people's values and morals are different.
Hmm.
So, they're doing what they do and, that's what they're doing,
Yeah.
But what you want to know is who you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And to gather up the strength to deal with the different obstacles that you may find yourself having to deal with. Now, here's the other thing. Focus on the work.
That's true. Yeah.
Make it less about me and more about the work. Make it less about how do I get into the industry? Who do I have to get to know to get into the industry? And make it more about the work. Because after you've done the business side, and you should do the business side,
Hmm.
and after you've done the networking, and you should do the networking, and you go through that door, be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, be
Yeah,
great.
your talent will just show it at the end of the day, right? Your talent is the thing
It,
that's
it
gonna.
will. I always think about, I'm just the names are just flying out of my head. I got this guy's face in my head. He's a famous comedian. But back in the 60s, this famous comedian who I can't think about his name, and Muhammad Ali were sitting on a golf course and trying to figure out if they were going to be let into this country club because he was Jewish and Muhammad Ali was black.
Hmm.
And so the guy who was a very famous comedian, Jewish comedian, was talking about, I just don't know if this is going to work out. I'm a Jew. They're not going to like me, yada, 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 yada. And he said, Muhammad Ali looked at him and said, well, I'm a black Muslim. you know, and you think about that. The gatekeepers in the which is a lot like the gatekeepers in the all the dark sides of Hollywood is in athletics. And, there's the mob, there's organized crime, there's all these other weird things surrounding athleticism. And all of that should tell Muhammad Ali, being black and then being a black Muslim and then changing his name from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali, that there's no way we're going to let you in to our club.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But he was great. And he was irresistible because he was great. And so, yes, all that dark stuff is there. But to focus on the work, to get to know yourself, and in the words of Mother Teresa, do it anyway.
I love it. Yeah, that's so good. Have you ever thought of writing a book?
Yes, I am. I have, and I will. I am slowly but surely working on it. There's a couple of books I'm looking at doing. So yes, thank you for that. Yes,
yeah, indeed. I mean, you really have quite a story here, something that and there's so much wisdom you've taken away from all your experiences, from homelessness to, the alcohol, the depression, the anxiety, all of that. And the fact that you've turned all of this adversity around and still managed to keep your morality through it and chosen that path. Like, I'm going to step away from this because I don't agree with, the values, and then come back into it purely for talent, to show what you really have to give. I love that.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yeah. And I would say too, I want to make it very clear, because I don't know who's going to see this. Now, I ain't no saint. And I think too, don't wait for all the lights to be green to go. Don't wait to be a saint to go. Don't wait to be perfect to go. You know what I mean? I think it's really, Jenica, if I could say one thing, it is truly to really get to know yourself, the value of who you are. There will never be another you on the planet, ever. Even with AI. Still, it ain't going to be another you. That means that you're the only one that can fulfill your desires. The Buddha says to be desireless. But what does that mean? Does it mean to walk around with no desires? No. It means achieve your desires. And when you've achieved that desire, you're desireless. And then achieve the next desire. And when you achieve that desire, when you're hungry, you desire food.
Yeah.
When you get the food, you ain't hungry no more. Until you get hungry again, but don't stay hungry, go get you something to eat.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is to get to know yourself and fulfill who you're supposed to be, do, and have. Your desire is the message in you, and it's there to be fulfilled. And so that's what I mainly want to say through all of this is the desires that you have are meant to be fulfilled.
Darius, thank you so much for being on Multispective. This has been so inspirational. I feel like I'm just going to get up and start writing now and putting together little
it's great. Great. I'm so happy. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. If you enjoyed the episode and would like to help support the show, please follow and subscribe. You can rate and review your feedback on any of our platforms listed in the description. I'd like to recognize our guests who are vulnerable and open to share their life experiences with us. Thank you for showing us we're human. Also, a thank you to our team who worked so hard behind the scenes to make it happen.
Chris Trzynski, Stefan Menzel.
The show would be nothing without you. I'm Jenica, host and writer of the show, and you're listening to Multispective.